Well, thank you for joining us. Happy fall. We've got Mary and Lisa and AU Fresh to thank for the snacks. They seem to have hit the spot. We've got a new bulb on the screen, so we're going to dim the lights to make sure it's visible. Fair bit of material to get through, so we'll first get through it and open up for question and answer. Two central questions to get your input on today, and these are the same questions we asked our Board of Trustees a week ago. First, how simpatico are you to making quality our North Star in terms of what guides some of the trade-offs we may need to make as we build toward the future? And Beth Ann's also going to talk briefly about a broader definition of academic program innovation and the centrality of academic program innovation to making quality our North Star. So those are the two key questions. This is an eye test. We sent you the materials last Friday, so you can review them at your leisure. We do one of these one-pagers every year. Early September, we met with the Strategic Planning Committee of the board to review the left-hand side document. It's our attachment F of our strategic plan. It's basically our dashboard, what we believe are the most important items to achieve in any given year. And it's color-coded, their initials on who's most responsible on the management team for making sure we achieve them. Green means we achieved the particular objective. Yellow, we made progress. Red, we actually lost ground. And proud of the management team in terms of not sandbagging the goals, but also being willing to look in the mirror and say, look, this is red, or this is yellow, when you could have said, look, it's green. The one on the right is our attachment F for this year. There are no colors yet. And the key difference, or key differences this year on the right-hand document is they're rank ordered. So the columns are the three themes of our strategic plan, and the cells underneath them are rank ordered what we believe are the greatest priority under that theme. So if you pay particular attention to the rank order, does it make sense to you? The Modern Think survey results that you also got detailed copies on, at the top of the rightmost column, it's taking better care of our people, shooting for at least a 2% salary pool, and introducing a merit compression-based component for those folks that have been with us a longer period of time. We have to hit a lot of targets in terms of fundraising, enrollment, retention to make that happen, but the Modern Think results fed directly into what's at the top of that column. Last year, when we laid out the objective, so the left-hand side page for enrollment management, in enrollment management, there are three key objectives: head count, the discount rate, and quality. And generally, you can achieve one. It's this Heisenberg uncertainty principle version. If you achieve one, you usually give up the other two. It's real hard to achieve two of the three. It's next to impossible to achieve all three. Last year, we improved in head count and discount rate, so we achieved two of the three. Quality was fair to middling, especially because we didn't see growth in our engineering number of deposits, and they historically contribute a significant amount to the overall quality of our incoming class. So when you look at that cell this year, quality is listed first among those three. So our objective, if we need to make trade-offs, is to trade in the direction of quality, even if we need to sacrifice some in terms of headcount, which has implications for budget, et cetera, but that's laid out. And it's more specific, too, in certain cells than it was last year. Last year, you'll see a cell that says improved socioeconomic mix, but that's it. and it's left pretty vague. This year, there's some very specific criteria that Brian Dalton and his enrollment management team have put down there. What does socioeconomic mix mean? Because that feeds into the discount rate we're able to achieve, and also quality measures we're aiming for. Last few times we've gone through an update for board and in other locations, we've used the 5 Ps of marketing. So we'll use that same framework today. Promotion, pricing, people, place, and product. Promotion. Of over $5 million in the Strategic Investment Fund that the trustees played a critical role in establishing, we decided to put $3 million in a 3-year stretch into ramping up what we do on the branding marketing front. Strategically, we thought this was a very important investment to make. Michael Kozlowski and our marketing communications staff did a survey of parents, 300 parents and prospects, roughly 2/3 prospects, 1/3 parents in the Buffalo-Rochester market. Is this investment bearing fruit? And general feedback is yes. We're picking up a fair bit more visibility. In fact, one of the cells that was red last year, we wanted to improve the mix coming from outside of New York. We actually lost a percentage point because we heavily advertised in Rochester, Buffalo, saw a nice uptick from those markets, but it drove down the percentage that was coming from outside of the state of New York. So not all these goals align with each other, and sometimes that was one of the areas we faced a trade-off. The perception of quality on our campus among parents and prospects, we saw a noticeable uptick this year relative to when we last did the survey in 2017. And a number of you, we had 47 of the living 120 Athletic Hall of Famers back with us. We moved it away from homecoming. This year created its own separate weekend. It was pretty big to do. A number of them participated in panels with students. Jeff Danaher deserves a particular shout out there in the 3rd row for organizing, Paul Vecchio and Jason Amor. But nice buzz on campus. They sat in on classes, and a lot of buzz from those that have been in the Buffalo-Rochester markets, how proud they are to see this advertising, and that finally we're getting the word out. Overall impressions also trending positively, especially in the Rochester-Buffalo markets where disproportionately we've been focused on with radio, TV, and outdoor. And why those markets, any school pretty much still draws disproportionately from within a 200-mile radius. So those are our 2 primary urban markets. The lectern's blocking this partly, but we've particularly focused on engineering prospects and driving them to open houses. The 3 open houses combined in 2018, we had 48 engineering prospects show up on campus. Materials Day, we had another 50 last year. So far with the 2 open houses, the first 2 combined, we've had 152 show up. We've got our 4th open house this Saturday. Right now at 218 registered total and 38 engineering prospects. Historically, we saw a nice uptick last year in both applications for first year and enrollment. And counter to the trends a lot of other schools in upstate New York have been reporting. Was just at a meeting last week. RIT, for example, reported being under-enrolled by 350 students. And based on the success of the focus on engineering, we're given some thought now, should we do something similar as business analytics, data analytics comes online? We have a new music degree, a division of performing arts. We've had a fabulous Most Arts Festival. So could we also do targeted campaigns in those areas as the year progresses? Dean Gabrielle Gausted and her faculty staff had an engineering open house a few Fridays ago. A lot of great turnout, and they turned it into a Rube Goldberg competition. Historically, you took a test, and you were taking the test individually. For this Rube Goldberg competition, you participated in a team with other prospective students. You got a collection of material, and you had to construct something that would achieve a particular objective. The beauty of that setup is prospective students help to recruit each other when they're behaving in teams, because they start to form bonds with fellow future students here at Alfred University. And it demonstrates our maker culture, our hands-on approach. So Gabby and her team have developed kits that we can take on the road. We had a prominent alumna last week from Pennsylvania, so she's now armed going back to Pennsylvania with this kit. What does an engineer do that can demonstrate much more directly and interest students along the way? Enrollment, we had pretty lofty targets. We saw a nice uptick both in first years and transfers. Our grasp was even higher than our reach ended up being. So we were hoping the target was 11 students greater in terms of transfers. And in terms of first years, we were hoping to be 22 higher. So that's where, when you look at that cell for fiscal year 19, it's colored yellow. Made nice progress, but didn't achieve all the objectives. We had a good year in terms of advancement, $36 million in gifts and commitments, one of our top years ever. Still, that cell was colored yellow because we thought we could do a better job stewarding, especially scholarship gifts. And we were hoping to set up 3 purple cities. We set up 2 in Washington, D.C. and New York City. A Friday ago, we had a major dinner at the nightclub, primarily focused on trustees who supported scholarship endowments and other folks from the area who've set up scholarship endowments, so we could start doing a better job on stewarding those gifts. It's the old Ben Franklin quote: if you want help from somebody, go to the person who's already helped you, but you got to be sure that you've been thanking him or her and that they know what their support has gone toward historically. And we had a record year for the Alfred Fund, $1.92 million. Most discretionary funds are declining or flat around the country. Discretionary support's hard to obtain, so Jason and his team deserve kudos for helping us, as well as all our supporters. Jason's sick today. The last few times around, we've tried to take the management team to different locations on campus, just so they get familiar. Hadn't been to the Palladium room, for example. If you ever get a chance to check it out on the 2nd floor of Binns Merrill, tremendous wood-lined room. Our Ceramic Art Museum used to be there. If we ever have a trustee that sponsors a ballroom dancing competition, we're going to go back to that site. Most recently, we went up to the Equestrian Center so that the Shanks could provide a tour of that facility and our management team could get more knowledgeable. For those of you that know Jason, he's deathly afraid of large animals, but he took one for the team, and we got him on a horse, and he's got a new nickname to boot. Retention's colored red for last year. We basically held our ground, but didn't make any progress. Our goal was to be at 76% first to second year, and this remains an important objective, creating less of a leaky bucket than we've had historically. So Kim Geyer and the Strategic Retention Council, and how do we work, both faculty and staff, to address this issue. We've instituted a summer orientation program, a first-year course in the form of Common Ground, 4-week-in monitoring so that we're better tracking our first years and how they're doing. Reports from the field from faculty staff, though, this remains an issue with our incoming class. So it's going to be hard to achieve what our objective is of 76% this year. We had announced prior, but now we're able to fully book. Marlon Miller's made a $2.5 million commitment to help us with next steps of residence life. He was here for the Perkins lecture. A gift that we haven't yet booked is he announced in the context of the Perkins lecture, he's giving us the lion's share of his private ceramic art collection, which is one of the most meaningful ceramic art private collections in the world. And it's going to close the circle because he acquired his love of art here through his roommate, his first wife, Marcy Ann. Through Wayne Higby, we were able to surprise Helen Drudd English with an honorary degree that same dinner. She's been a big promoter of our artists, making sure they get placed in prominent museums around the world. It was a special evening. A number of you were there with us for the occasion, especially from School of Art and Design. And she's also indicated to Wayne that she'd like to help us out. She's got a marvelous collection of her own artwork in Philadelphia as well as New York City. Greg Connors and his family have also made a commitment that we've now been able to book of $1.5 million toward next steps of residence life. At last Friday's scholarship dinner, several trustees started an endowment campaign to raise a scholarship in honor of our former president, Charlie Edmondson, and his wife, Laura Grayson. That's now received $210,000 in commitment, so we'll be able to launch that with the next academic year. We'll soon be announcing $1 million anonymous commitment and gift, courtesy of Mary McInnes in particular in our School of Art and Design. She taught a particular student that graduated last year, Mary Hall Keys, and Mary Hall had such a wonderful experience. Her parents, the family has a home on the Maine coast. They established a connection with an anonymous donor. 3 weeks ago, we received in the mail $1 million check that'll go to the endowment, and that each year will provide the funding to support School of Art and Design APEX opportunities for students, faculty, staff on the Maine coast. We were in Philadelphia last Wednesday. Garth Ehrlich, class of 71, a member, actually no, 77, class of 77 member. He's now a medical doctor, researcher at Drexel University. His dad taught math here. His mom was the first female chemistry member at Hobart Williams Smith and then worked for our libraries. Developed the first cataloging system at Herrick Library. And he's made 4 bequest commitments, 3 scholarships in liberal arts and sciences, 1 in honor of John Stoll, 1 in honor of his mom, and then he's also going to be endowing a speaker series in liberal arts and sciences. Our expectation is this will prove to be at least 2 to 3 times larger than the amount he's publicly stated. Robin Majika has been working with him closely. He loves this place, had great formative influence on his family here, and we anticipate some good news will come further down the road. Another eye chart, I'll walk you through this. Pricing. We asked the Board of Trustees in September, the Executive Committee, for early approval for the tuition structure for next year. We usually do this at our October board meeting. In a nutshell, we are moving toward the Cornell model. We've had a different collection of tuitions depending on if you're statutory college, if you're private engineering. Our existing structure has 3 different tuition levels. The highest one is for liberal arts and sciences and business. Then the next highest is for out-of-state statutory college students, as well as private engineering. And then the lowest level is for statutory in-state. What Cornell does is have just 2 different tuition levels. There's the base level, and then if you're statutory in-state, you're paying 2/3 of the base level. So we've moved to adopt that model. So going forward, and we would get questions on the admission side, well, you're ranked pretty high in engineering, but why is the rate so low for out-of-state engineering compared to some of the schools we're competing with? So for new students coming in as of the fall, the tuition level will be the same for business, liberal arts and sciences, private engineering, and out-of-state statutory college. In-state statutory will be 2/3 that base level. We've run the numbers. We're going to grandfather existing students so that they will see, last several years, we've raised the base by 3.9% a year and back and filled on financial aid as needed based on family circumstances. We're going to keep using that approach. So it's the new students that will be most directly confronted by this new structure. We've run the numbers with our consulting firm, Human Capital. They predict that the change, so long as we compensate with financial aid, will at most result in losing 1 or 2 students. And on net for next year's budget, it'll at best probably contribute an additional $100,000. So the main reason we're doing this near term is not for financial reasons. We want to simplify the structure. Students change majors, and we've heard stories of people worried if I change majors, I got to worry about the different tuition. We want to make our borders as porous as possible so people can better identify their passions and pursue them. Where the financial benefits will be more substantial is down the road if we can change our pool and better stress the value that we provide. Down the road, if we can do that, the benefits get more significant. But near term, it's just to simplify the thing and make it easier for students to identify, follow their passion. People goal. We're in the process this year benchmarking faculty staff salaries. Where we have biggest compression, merit matters. We've got to make sure too, for faculty staff, our review processes are sufficiently robust. But the game plan is to move toward greater than or equal to, right now it's 2% as we've done in July. We'd like to do better than that, especially if we can end up achieving our targets and start introducing a component that allows us to deal with merit and compression. In terms of place, courtesy of Marlon Miller, we have this fabulous sculpture in front of the Ceramic Art Museum by Eva Hild from Scandinavia. She was here this summer, the Wave. We just launched the link. If you've had a chance, or if you haven't, go check it out. It was a student idea. First, Ann Moskowitz funded the renovation of Moskowitz Hall. It used to be Reimer. Some of the Reimer family were with us a week ago. It's now the Reimer Lounge, so we can keep honoring that family's support over the years. Marlon then said, I'll do Teft Hall. And then when the students showed the idea for the link, he agreed last August that he would fund it if we could get it up and running by this fall. So we're trying to drive involvement. The next monthly birthday celebration with the purple and gold cake, we're going to be doing it at the link. And this time we'll do it at 8:30 in the morning so we catch some of the morning folks as opposed to the community table last time around in October toward the end of the day. Some great art by Olivia Piazza, one of our recent grads. We'll be adding some additional art. Sarah Blood's working with Michael Kozlowski, particular tiles that showcase our ceramic strength out front. We're going to do the Student Saxon Circle member in December with s'mores and the fire pit outside. So check it out if you haven't yet. 2 stories high, connects both buildings, and open access. The dorms, the residence halls are still secured. Knight Hall, we first had to repair the roof on Powell because we received another gift from Eric Bershad and Susan Bershad to redo the wall hangings. They've got one of the world's best wall covering firms, and they gave us the means to, they've already allowed us to redo Alumni Hall, Carnegie Hall, other places, the Saxon Inn. So this latest stage was the nightclub. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, it's now freshly spruced up, but the roof had to be fixed first, and Jamie Babcock and his team put in a lot of effort over the summer to make sure that happened. PCC has gotten, I don't know if this has been your impression, parking's gotten tougher, and PCC's gotten more crowded. Part of it is we're serving Starbucks. We made a particular trustee's day because he's always He always brings Starbucks when we do the meeting in New York City, but hadn't been able to access that. One of his fellow trustees surprised him with his favorite drink from Starbucks during the context of the meeting. So Kevin Livingston is a happier person now. Jamie and his team, we're also experimenting in other ways we can live the brand. We're still working now with some alums. It's got to be less water soluble, it's lasting, and not too expensive. Boise State, if you ever watch their football games, they've got the uniquely colored stadium. Other schools pay them royalties to use those colors in their stadium, but it also has a way of demonstrating we're outside of ordinary. Some updates on places. The key themes, you saw the announcement a few days ago. Next summer, we're going to be renovating both Oppenheim and Crawford in 90 days. Charlie Joyce and Marlon Miller hired a consultant. One of the key takeaways from the consultant, we'd been thinking this would take us 5-6 months. We learned from the consultant these can be done in 90 days with enough pre-planning. And that creates a lot more opportunity because you don't have to take a building offline. So we have 3 construction managers that have bid for these projects. All 3 believe they could do them together. We've got to decide who to go with. The key things we're focusing on is renovating the buildings, but creating more opportunities for intersection, bringing students with different curricular, co-curricular backgrounds, demographic backgrounds, and so we do a better job of building community. Oppenheim, we've been told by the consultants, don't take prospective students there. It's that bad. It still seems to build community. It's our largest first-year targeted hall, 150 beds, 151 beds. The key element to change will be the ground floor. Kitchen area, dining area, game room, study cubicles, a classroom facility, a maker space, a business office. We're going to be talking to prospective donors that may be interested in naming just this floor. Objective is to make this the place that we take all prospective students to and their families. And because it's so close to Alumni Hall, the more visible, the more reachable it is, the better. We're thinking of using a fair bit of glass, perhaps pushing out the walls in front, so it, again, like the Link, portrays our strength in glass. Nowadays, glass is not such a heat sink, so sustainability-wise, you don't lose that much ground, and perhaps adding glass on the sides of this building to, again, highlight what we see in Miller 1, Miller 2, the Ceramic Art Museum, and the Link. So the students have been particularly involved in providing input to the consultants. So they are here again this week. They've been through several rounds and have been taken into account input offered by students, as well as residence life staff, as well as management team and board of trustees. That sunken lounge will get filled in, and it'll be a much more open space and inviting space. We're going to add a few beds. It'll go up to 158 beds, and tucking in a few the consultants found along the sides with some unique bunk bed features. This has been a big hit with students who have seen this. And what we're also asking, to what extent could these renovations help us drive next year's enrollment and deposits? A number of schools tie in that the sooner you submit your deposit, the further up on the list you are of being able to live in a new or newly renovated facility. Oops. We had a pretty big fight over Pine Hill Suites among our trustees. Do you tear them down or do you renovate them? Marlon, we had a facilities grounds meeting in May that unanimously said tear it down. The cost, though, would have been greater than our borrowing capacity to redo all the Pine Hill Suites. So Marlon came up with the solution of let's just pilot one, see how it works. We've chosen Crawford, which is closest to Aid, so it won't mess up the configuration if we find out it doesn't work. But the students throughout the process, a few of them have said, don't fixate too much on what's on the outside. What really matters to us is what's on the inside. Temperature controls, meeting spaces. This one's envisioned to have an indoor-outdoor fireplace, also areas outside where students can congregate when the weather's accommodating. Lounge areas, kitchen areas. And on the upper floors, we initially were going to put the intersection point on the ground floor. The student input was these are 3-floor buildings. Put the intersection floor in the middle so the top floor and the bottom floor can have only one floor to traverse to create that intersection. Particular focus on 5-person suites and using this for living learning communities. Whether it's equestrian or whether it's the honors program, these will have some educational opportunities. $10 million across the 2 projects. We have $4 million committed. The board approved borrowing up to $15 million. Our objective is to drive down how much we have to borrow. Right now we're envisioning 6. The more we can raise philanthropically, because it'll allow us to keep powder dry for other projects. And what we relayed to the board, hands down, what drives enrollment, drives retention. It's nice to get residence hall gifts, nice to get athletic facility gifts, but it's academic programs that are central to attracting students, keeping them, and that's what we need to stay mindful of what any borrowing we do, and even there, the portion of money we're raising as part of our philanthropic campaign. In terms of product, thanks to the efforts of faculty, staff, Common Ground is in its piloted last year, but first year as a 1-unit course. Trustees are again supporting it philanthropically. Apex is in its 2nd year. It's colored yellow. We were aiming for 200 projects. We got 179. So that's why it's colored yellow. So make sure that you're identifying opportunities, either in your alumni connections or the courses you're involved with. Data analytics, computer science. Data analytics has morphed into both data and business analytics. Computer science we're restarting, especially with the importance of big data. It's already on the books. We think there's some great job opportunities as well as abilities to attract students. A lot of focus in these areas is at the graduate level, not at the undergrad level. Music major's been approved. The Performing Arts Division has some plans what else could be done to build student enrollment and excellence in that division. We're nearly double MBA enrollments. Mark Lewis and his team have been building ties across campus we've got a top 100 program there. New leadership minor that's campus-wide. Health planning and management's restarted as a minor and major. Gabby and her faculty staff team, Holly Schulman's the lead faculty member. How do we create this unique experience in the first year that will mirror what happens through foundations in the School of Art and Design? Problem solving, mushing courses together so they're focused on the problem as opposed to standalone courses. Step Lab, if you haven't had a chance to view it, it's now both floors. We're anticipating probably in the next couple of months we'll receive a major commitment, have to endow activities that occur, especially through mechanical engineering. Our Baja Car program, we now have a snowmobile analog that's coming online. It's been one of our fastest growing majors, and just the transformation, shout out to Jamie and his team as well as Gabby and her team for that transformation over the summer. And then BS in chemistry, biology, and biochemistry, bridging together those two. Common Ground, we've had 2 plenary sessions. Kristen Beck came back a few weeks ago. Alex Clare was one of the individuals that helped us on the disability panel, along with Julio Fuentes and Phil Rich, just a week ago. And let me turn it over to Beth Ann.
So these are the slides, a few slides from what we presented at the Board of Trustees in the academic affairs portion. Our message really to the trustees was twofold. The first is that academic innovation isn't new, and the second was about expanding the concept of what counts as academic innovation. So in terms of it not being new, this is the stuff of what we do. We are constantly reflecting on our teaching and looking at our disciplines. So innovation is how we keep abreast of our disciplines. It's adapting new teaching methods, inventing new courses, and exploring new fields of study. In terms of expanding the way we're thinking about what counts as academic innovation, the president mentioned some of our new major programs and degrees, but it's not only new major programs and degrees, it's re-envisioning or restructuring current programs that we have. It's also thinking about our pedagogy and inventing new ways of teaching. People are reflecting on that all the time. At the Board of Trustees meeting, we had 3 really great examples of that. We had the example of the first year engineering. We also had the example from biology and how they've reshaped their curriculum about 5 years ago. Both of those were changes in curriculum, but they were also changes in teaching methods. And then Mark Lewis went through the new program in data analytics and business analytics. So when we talk about innovation, we're not talking about change and new just for the sake of change. So we looked at how this supports the elements of our strategic plan. And I think first and foremost, we were concerned with a culture of quality. And that's talking about the quality of our academic programming, but really thinking that we're not just like latching on to what's new, we're thinking about our students, we're thinking about preparing them for the world, we're thinking about what fits with Alfred University. Our innovation, we want to contribute to recruitment and retention. Those have to be some of our top goals. And also, one of our goals has to be how we prepare our graduates for post-graduation. We also see academic innovation as a way to better take care of our people. It's a way of supporting what we do every day, a way of elevating that and saying that, you know, this is at the heart of what we do and where we're going. So as an example, what do we need to be able to do this? We have to have a lot of support. So the first sort of leg of support, Academic Affairs did a strategic investment fund request, which we were granted to help us with some seed money for a year to support academic innovation. And we're going to be putting that money towards these 3 things: workshops, conferences, and innovation proposals. So the idea here is that we will have some teaching workshops this year. One of them, for example, is going to be on universal design learning. We may also have a second workshop on bringing experiential learning into the classroom. Those kinds of conversations that faculty are eager to have on campus. We will be using money to support people to go to conferences on pedagogical issues. And then we will also be supporting some stipends for folks who are working on innovations, whether that's changing curricula or advancing new curricula, to try to help support what they're doing.
Thanks, Beth Ann. In terms of quality, we have a specific goal, not that it's to be applied cookie cutter, because how we measure quality School of Art and Design differs from engineering, but we've laid out a specific goal where to be on average when it comes to high school GPA and board scores. We've always, though, provided opportunity. And so leaving room for opportunity and a faculty, staff, alumnus to say, or alumna, we ought to take a chance on so-and-so, so we don't lose that elemental part of our DNA. And then one of Beth Ann's insights has been, it can't just be incoming students. The Harvard Business School dean right now, when he welcomes faculty, the initial faculty meeting, what he ends up saying is, we've got to do 2 things: attract good students, and then don't damage them. As if just attracting good students is all that counts. a key part is what happens when they're with us. So it's got to be something we're all in on, what we do with our instruction, with our scholarship, how we're using honors society, honors programs to create stretch growth opportunities for our students. We can't just think if we get better students, life will be better. So it's got to be a more whole-scale commitment. The board asked us for the February meeting, we'll start thinking of the trade-offs. If we're going to be smaller than we're targeting right now in terms of incoming class, what's going to be the trade-off? And Beth Ann correctly pointed out, we can't just think of that trade-off. We also have to think of the trade-off if we don't pay attention to quality. What are the issues we're going to be dealing with near-term as well as long-term for our institution? We're introducing something courtesy of a $5 million anonymous bequest gift that came through last year. The donor stipulations were two things. Scholarships have to be need-based, and number two, they have to be given to individuals who will give back to the institution. And so we're going to be piloting these scholarships. We're calling them Funding Futures, where we're threefold objective. Number one, to attract some top promising students to our campus more than we otherwise would have without this support. We believe we can raise additional philanthropy. At the board meeting, we had a trustee already commit to enhancing what we're going to be able to offer by adding 2 additional scholarships to the mix. And number 3, creating future philanthropists. So the way the Funding Futures we envision working, initially in this year for next fall, we'll make 10 to 15 awards targeted to engineering, because that's where we haven't had much growth in enrollment, if anything, some slippage over the last 15 years, where the last $10,000 of the award will be a zero interest award. You'll sign a promissory note coming in that if you receive this award for $10,000 for each of 4 years, once you land on your feet, you'll have 10 years to pay back the $40,000. And when you pay it back, we're going to need some help tracking it. But once you've paid back $25,000, which is our current endowment threshold, we'll create an endowment in your name to help the next generation that then you can add to through future philanthropy, so you can pay it forward in your own time. Just some examples. We have some distinctive elements and they're reflected in our marketing. We're very much an experiential maker culture, where we're going to in engineering, where Foundations already is, what Apex does. This Saturday, we're going to be touting the rich array of programs, the range, relative to liberal arts schools that we compete with. That creates some enormous diversity that forms an advantage for us. We have a history of inclusivity, and we have a highly personalized experience. One of the things at the Athletic Hall of Fame, I haven't been with an athletic director who knows each of our student athletes by name. Hard to pull off. And I haven't yet found a school we'll tout on Saturday where each department has that person that leads the department, their name and their email address. You don't find that in many places. 2 demonstrations that we incubate talent. We have 2 recent White House appointments. One of our own trustees, a master's grad, Sriram, who's the Chief Technology Officer for Dow Chemical. Got appointed to the President's Science and Tech STEM Advisory Group. And then one of our recent grads from 2006, Elizabeth Brown, Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. She's based in Connecticut and interested in sending some of her top students our way. John Edmond is another trustee, a ceramic engineering grad, co-founder of Cree. You might have seen the announcement. They announced a $1 billion facility they're building in the Utica area. That won us considerable brownie points with the governor, which we hope to translate into some meaningful things to follow for our main campus here. but it's going to be the largest silicon carbide manufacturing facility in the world. They're headquartered in North Carolina, so this was a major coup that the governor and the Empire State Development Authority had been looking for a tenant for the last 3 years. In terms of quality, one of our alums sent us an article from the Washington Post last week. Part of the nuance of Hampshire College, this year they admitted their might be their last class. 70 applicants, 70 students they admitted. 70 applicants. Their incoming class is 13 students. They probably could have been played better. The new state law coming in Massachusetts, you have to have 4 times the endowment of your operating budget. They weren't at that point, so they announced we're thinking of merging, created a lot of dissonance in the media that drove down applications. But a nuance of the story that the alum pointed out, to drive up applications, they decided to get rid of admission tests. And they found for 1 year it drove up applications, but because they were no longer paying attention to quality, it started negatively influencing the pool of students. They were no longer on the U.S. News World Report list when they went no test required. So just a cautionary tale that if we don't pay attention to quality, that tends to have consequences in higher ed. So we'll ask you 2 questions. Beth Ann highlighted one of them, academic program innovation, broadly defining it, its centrality. And just gut reaction, this trade-off toward quality, what you're seeing here and elsewhere, making it our North Star. So let me stop there. And thanks for being here. Dan? No. Yeah.
So thank you for all that you and the administration are doing to move us forward. One of the questions I had was about the new tuition rollout. Traditionally, the School of Engineering has had a tuition that covers 20 credits, whereas LAS has had a tuition that covers 18. And so in aligning the tuition structure, are you also aligning the number of credits covered by that tuition?
I believe so, but we'll double check. Yes? Okay, yes. Okay. Couple requests or pitches. We're reinstituting alumni awards. So if you have a former student who's done some great stuff, they're available on the website. Or if you shoot me an email, nominate them. We're going to be using occasions like homecoming and reunion to recognize their accomplishment, build ties with those individuals. The more we can get them to campus, good things tend to happen. And it also allows us to populate stories then in the Alfred magazine. Visa, if you haven't already signed up, anyone you recommend, if they end up coming to campus and matriculating, they get a $1,000 scholarship in your name. And you can specify, I'll be willing to make outreach to 20 top art and design students, or 20 top liberal arts and sciences, or students that are coming in from Massachusetts or New Mexico. So you get to set the parameters of how you'd like to help us. The more we can mobilize an army of folks playing up our university, it's still the personal touch that makes or breaks decisions, just like your involvement with open houses that convinces students to come. And then stories, shout out to Beth Ann and MT, this monthly publication of faculty staff accomplishments. So if there are other things, I didn't realize till this summer with the fabulous stuff going on in biology, led by Jean. Our trustees were blown away a week ago by the innovation happening there and what can be learned so that this perhaps spreads to a few other disciplines on campus if it's a workable option. Yes, Lou.
Question has to be related to this, but It's been quite a while since Rick Stevens stopped being provost, and I haven't seen any kind of ad. I mean, it's sort of getting late, isn't it, to be recruiting for the next provost?
We've got a search firm that's coming to campus next Monday to talk with the search committee. And I know the search committee was still revising certain elements of the ad, but it should be up very shortly. Yeah.
Okay, and I have a second question. Is something happening on Jericho Field? Because you mentioned a number of physical changes, and you didn't mention that one, so I'm wondering about that.
Thanks for asking. Jericho Hill has $8 to $9 million Envision phases. We have $2.25 million in the bank on the first phase, courtesy of Charlie Joyce and Terry Galanis. We had an alumni visitor from Arizona 5 weeks ago who, what we conveyed to him is a $4 million commitment would allow us to green light the first phase. He went back with materials to talk with his wife. He's got the capacity either to do it individually or to do it give and get with some of his fellow student athletes. It would allow us to add a women's field hockey team, attract more students through that vehicle, expand what we do in track and field, and create more facilities, practice times for our existing programs. But we want to do it as much as possible through philanthropy. So keep your fingers crossed that ideally it'd be closer to campus. But because of how much space it is, some environmental concerns, Canacadea, we can't get that proximity closer to campus. So we think this is our best option, and we're hoping this person allows us to green light. If this happens, we'd be looking at next summer to do phase one. A trustee has also told us they're interested in committing to on the order of $1.5 million toward that project. So our watchword, we want to sensitize trustees, philanthropy first and foremost to academics when we can steer it, and any borrowing we do first and foremost has to be to academic program facilities. If some love residence life and athletic facilities, though, we'll thank them profusely and figure out a way to help our cause. So. Yeah, Emerson.
This is just a quick question about marketing. Every morning, when I listen to National Public Radio, I hear events advertised at Ithaca College and at St. John Fisher, at Nazareth, at Houghton, at SUNY Binghamton and all the rest. But I never hear Alfred University mentioned. Why is it that we don't use National Public Radio to market?
Why not, Michael?
It's time we took a good look at that. Not to be facetious about it, we have a limited amount of money, as you know, to be able to spend each year. We're funded, fortunately, from the Strategic Investment Fund. Based on the marketplace that we are looking for, which is a very targeted marketplace, Buffalo and Rochester right now, we believe targeted marketing in those areas will serve us best in terms of enrollment. I should also point out two things. There's two things that we are working on right now. One is we're trying to build an awareness of additional campaigns like NPR, which would largely be awareness and not targeted.
We are trying to use social media to heard from my youngest son in Queens a weekend ago that he was listening to music in his apartment, and Outside of Ordinary came up, and he was pretty pleased with that. Yes?
Just a quick follow-up on your target areas. You mentioned Buffalo and Rochester, but you had also mentioned in the red for the strategic plan that we were down by 1% because of the high targeted recruitment in those areas for out-of-state.
Yeah.
So is there a strategic foresight to go into out-of-state? And if so, are there any states in particular we're starting with?
So I'll answer the last question first. Any state
and it's part of the rationale behind the Purple Cities. So Washington, D.C., we've got quite a few alums. We've got a group up and running. It'd be very expensive radio, TV there, but promoting alums being part of the visa program and them helping recruit the next generation of students. Take one more question and then we'll break it up.